At the risk of sounding like the most calcified boomer to have ever boomed, I just discovered what BikeTok is the other day, and I'm fundamentally changed as a human being and as a motorcycle rider. You people out there are completely unhinged on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and we're gonna do a deep dive today to figure out what is going on with BikeTok and are you all okay? I've been making motorcycle content on YouTube for over 10 years now, and I've been watching motorcycle videos for a longer time than that. So I'm no stranger to motorcycle videos, and things have changed over time. You started with legacy media companies like Cycle News and even some new players like Revzilla. People who used to do magazine stuff transitioned into video. Then it became a little more polished, a little more editorialized. Think of stuff like Fort9, who's owned by a larger e-commerce company. While at the same time, you had fledgling creators figuring out how to make stuff on the cheap and for fun. Cue the motovlog era. I count myself among those OG motovloggers from all the way back in 2015. You strap a GoPro to your helmet, talk about your life, or talk about motorcycling. It's a format that's still popular today. Then on that spectrum, there's adventure bike content, gear review, more casual talks about motorcycling, and even wrenching and how-to videos. The very basic element of all of these videos throughout the last 10 or 15 years here on YouTube is that they're designed to be consumed by motorcycle enthusiasts, which are, let's be real, primarily males. Our analytics proves that out. 97% of you are dudes. But then there's BikeTok. It's not for guys, it's not really for motorcycle enthusiasts, and it sure as heck is not for me. And if you're anything like me, a 30-something-year-old guy who's into motorcycles, you may have a vague idea of what adding "talk" to the end of a word means because of the proliferation of BookTok, but it really gets so much weirder than that. Let's talk a little bit about short-form content in motorcycling right now, because that's a pretty well understood format. If you're on Instagram or TikTok and you like motorcycles, you've probably been introduced to this type of content. You already know what it is. It's the guy with an AGV helmet, the hoodie, roller shots, 4K, going down the road, flashy bikes. Essentially what this functions as is motorcycle pornography that's safe for work for men. It's lavish, it's aspirational, and it depicts an overly excessive lifestyle that's adjacent to the kind of sigma alpha male grind set hustle bro kind of thing that's happening on short form as well. As a young male, you might think, I want to be ripped like that guy, I want to be rich like that guy, I want to have an S1000RR like that guy. It's all feeding into the same part of your psyche. But those on BikeTok, also known as helmet creators, have taken this to a whole new level. And it's not just shirtless, ripped dudes posing with their sport bikes. If only it was just that. BikeTok is actually aimed towards women with the kind of fetish of the sexy anonymous bad boy biker thing. Now at this point you might be a little lost in saying, yeah, that's preposterous. Motorcycles do not get chicks. If you're some overweight Harley guy at the gas station, or if you're some nerd riding a BMW also moonlighting as a furry on weekends, you're obviously not very popular with the ladies. Well, that really lies the conundrum. Most of these helmet creators don't even have motorcycles. And the ones that do seem to only use them as a prop to further the sexy anonymous helmet guy. It's not even really about bikes. A lot of, if not most of the views on these videos come from women. And young women are prone to using their phones to consume copious amounts of short-form content. And again, you must be very confused because I've told you time and time again, and it is true that women do not care about motorcycles. If you want to be popular with the ladies, I highly recommend getting a dog, getting a Vespa, and learning how to cook. Trust me. To get to the bottom of this, we must first understand BookTok. So I'm going to keep this brief because this is a motorcycle channel, but we need to talk about this specifically before we talk about the other stuff. And quite frankly, I haven't seen any mainstream or popular motorcycle content creator talking about this phenomenon. I think we're legacy YouTube creators at this point. BookTok would have you believe that it's just TikTok about books, the stuff that people are reading, stuff that they're into, that's all it could be, right? Well, it turns out it's mostly about horny books, smutty books, books that are basically pornography for women. Sometimes these are dark and twisted sort of fantasies, including themes like rape. And BookTok has led to the highest concentration we've ever seen of openly horny women online. And where there are openly horny women online, men will follow. Men will camp out. Men will try to stake their claim. Many of the themes talked about in these books are, of course, romantic or sexual in nature, but they also follow the kind of weirder, dominant, submissive type of thing, and the sort of fantasy that seemingly a lot of suburban 20-somethings seem to gush over. With hashtag BookTok and other subsequently smutty hashtag getting billions of views with a B. Not only are women reading and discussing these openly sexual books online, but they're also engaging in some of the most feral, unhinged, and crazy behavior I've ever seen from the general population. So honestly, I think a lot of young guys saw the zeitgeist and said, well, I'm ripped, I'm 22, I'm on TikTok, time to cash in, baby. Some of BikeTok content is fairly innocuous. Maybe a little cringe, but stuff that you maybe would send to your significant other when you're in high school or something like that. You'll see some shirtless guy in a parking lot making some silly joke or doing some silly dance. Oftentimes it'll be even more low effort than that, just like a dude in his kitchen or bedroom with the helmet on, no shirt, and just dancing. But it gets darker very quickly. For instance, a video of a guy on a bike with a text that reads, "Treat my daughter like you treat your bike," and then it cuts to a video of him dousing the bike down with soapy water. I mean, come on. This is one of the first videos that pops up when you search BikeTok on TikTok, and it has over 500,000 likes. There's lots of these videos that I cannot even show or talk about in this video without it immediately getting demonetized or possibly even striking my channel. Drop a like for our editor Josh, who's going to have to be very, very careful about how he puts this video together. Some of these videos are kind of blurring the line between trying to drop these one-liners and risen up these BookTok girls, or just like kind of crazy terrorist demands. And I really cannot stress to you how much engagement these kind of videos are getting. I'm talking hundreds of millions of views, thousands and thousands of comments, likes, and follows, all from, you guessed it, horny young women. There's also other types of videos of couples riding two up and making really overt and gross sexual innuendos towards each other in public. And then also this idea that like backpacking is a sexual act. And again, millions of views, positive interaction, and commenters basically being like, this is couple goals. But now these BikeTok guys are making their way onto YouTube. And that's where I have a problem with it. This is my turf, baby. As someone who takes a lot of pride in trying to provide the best information possible to both new riders and experienced riders, I am very protective of this space here on YouTube. It is absolutely mind-boggling that the mass exposure that people are getting about motorcycles are coming from BikeTok creators. I kind of feel like I have my little bucket here on YouTube providing good information, and there's just like this tidal wave of BikeTok content coming to kill us all. And look, sure, a vast majority of people who gobble up that kind of content are never even gonna get a bike themselves. I mean, how are you expected to get a motorcycle if you're always horny, never leave the house, you're on the phone all the time, and you're too broke to buy a bike? Sorry, just calling a spade a spade. But that's not to say that someone who is exposed to BikeTok over time wouldn't get started riding, and I really think it's sort of like squid content on steroids because it's warping so much of what we understand about motorcycling. BikeTok creates a totally screwed up and abstract value system for motorcycle riders. Rider skill, rider safety, appropriate behavior outside in the world, acceptable financial decisions, no consideration at all. It's literally all about clout, attention, flash, and being as embarrassingly and unapologetically horny as possible. If that's your first exposure to motorcycling, how is that going to create long-lasting positive impact? BikeTok's been a thing for a while now, and I think a lot of these creators are starting to understand that in the motorcycle community, we've been kind of laughing at you guys. I mean, no offense, and he's a nice kid, but look at Matthew Woods. Need I say more? Although I am glad that he is actually learning how to ride and doing things the right way. I invited him out to a track day here in Texas. Hopefully he takes me up on it. So these guys grow up, get a little smart, and realize that they need to diversify their content if they actually want to try to make it in this crazy world of content creation. So a BikeTok creator who has a massive following due to primarily their kind of trashy, smutty, horny content decides to delve into real motorcycle reviews. So a new or prospective rider might see their more normal videos and see somebody riding a motorcycle and reviewing it and take their word as gospel because they have 800,000 followers or something like that. When in reality, they got their start by making motorcycle thirst traps and literally have no clue what they're talking about when it comes to motorcycle riding. And look, people can melt their brains watching short-form content for 12 hours a day all they want. I'm not going to endorse it, but that's your life and that's your choice. I don't think my influence is strong enough to affect the seemingly worldwide trajectory of a mass psychological disorder we all fall under. But when that mentality invades the motorcycle space, I can't help but be a little bit offended. Not just because motorcycling is obviously an important part of my life and my career here on YouTube, but because it's pretty serious business. Of course, motorcycles are super fun, that's why we ride them, but they are very serious, and they shouldn't just be props to attract horny women online. It's a bit strange. They require training, patience, and respect in order to operate them safely, and the consequences of not doing so correctly can be fatal. The more nihilistic among you in the audience might say, yeah, this is just Darwin supercharged. These people are just being weeded out of the gene pool. But I don't know, these people can definitely add value in different ways to society than yeeting themselves into a bush while wearing a furry Muppet helmet and doing thirst traps on their motorcycles. And for God's sake, I'd never want to call myself a motorcycle influencer if that's the idea that people have about what a motorcycle influencer is. And as ultra cringe as BikeTok can be, the darker effect is that it trivializes and downplays the severity of riding improperly. So in conclusion, BikeTok is insane, and BookTok leading to BikeTok is even crazier. The normalization of hypersexualized content is really crazy too. And TikTok is filled with children. Why is this allowed to happen? And why, of all things, did motorcycles get wrapped up in this? I will leave you all with one question to ponder. BookTok daughter or BikeTok son? Which would you want as a parent? Comment your body count down below and let me know you made it all the way to the end of the video. I'm tuning out for a while. See you later. Keep watching, Emmy!